an interesting stat most people didn't know is every day in China, 33 million people use chopsticks for lunch every day. And in the US, we have about 40 billion chopsticks that we import every year. How did you get into this?
It's definitely not something that, growing up in the Alps in Germany, you kind of grew up saying, I want to recycle chopsticks for a living one day. So that's not the story you're going to hear. But, during my career, getting back into academia, I moved to Vancouver, BC, Canada. I very quickly realized how many sushi restaurants we have, and my partner and I, we eat sushi a lot, and it was just
very good ones up there, by the way.
Very good ones, yeah. And you kind of get to appreciate all the international cuisine, and then you also notice things that maybe others who grew up here, don't notice. And I noticed how many chopsticks we're using. You kind of feel bad throwing them out after 20 minutes until I joked about it.
We also take ours home.
Exactly.
We use them.
What started as a joke, where because I studied bamboo, so bamboo is my expertise as a wood engineer, and I used to start joking about it that if I ever run out of material, I can just start recycling chopsticks. And that joke kind of didn't leave my mind anymore. And then one day I just committed and said, let's do this. Let's turn this into something and see if there's something there, and maybe we can kind of lead by example what sustainability means.
Yeah. Well, growing up in the Alps, where you play, you said you had a background kind of in woodworking. Were you doing things like that out there?
Yeah, you kind of automatically, when you grow up in nature and in forests and in the mountains, I think you develop this very indirect sense for having a responsibility for your home and for your environment. Definitely didn't grow up as an environmentalist or any sort of extremes, but just like an appreciation for, where we are from. Yeah, I think I was around 15 when I left school actually to become a woodworker, because that's just how it is. When you go into the trades, you have really good apprenticeship programs in Germany. And I was a really proud and happy woodworker when I was 18, 19 already.
So you had this background and a passion about going about this, and it kind of saw the opportunity. Where did you go? I assume you researched for a while, but what was kind of the inception of your company?
Yeah, so quite the opposite. I didn't research it because I think if I would have done too much research, I would have not started this company. So it's sometimes the best ideas, they just go.
Yeah.
Because you shared some stats at the beginning of the conversation. 33 million chopsticks every lunch break in China, 40 billion chopsticks we're importing to North America. Every stat you find is like we are currently proving them wrong in our business, because it's all too conservative or wrong estimates. Like the amount of unutilized resources we have in our cities, that's kind of where this whole frustration was coming from for me. I dealt with much larger numbers as a wood engineer. I worked on the construction waste from the housing market, and those are numbers that they're too big to grasp. So as the average Joe, you just don't understand what 600,000 tons of wood waste means per year.
You don't even know what it looks like.
No. So you don't have the same emotional connection to that number as you would have to 100,000 chopsticks per day that you're throwing out in Vancouver. And then everyone is like, wow, 100,000 chopsticks? Are you sure? And I'm like, let me show you, right? And I think this kind of action of let me show you drove me to start the brand Chop Value. So all I wanted to do at the beginning is I wanted to prove people that they're wrong. They are not focusing on all that potential that we have on waste as a resource. And I thought, if I could create a viable business model with something small and humble like a chopstick, maybe people start listening. Maybe people can translate that model into much larger problems that we're having. Because I always have to remind my team, I never want to say that we're actually saving the planet with what we do. Like our crazy chopstick journey is tackling 0.015% of the global waste problem. So let's be real. Like, yes, we have a tangible impact. It's measurable too. We're doing it well. But I think it's really just this thought leadership piece that is important to us to make sure that other much larger industries can hopefully copy and adapt from our innovation and have much larger impact.
Yeah, everything you said, I think is so wonderful. And the challenge when you think of waste in manufacturing is just there's so much excess value just sitting there in our waste stream, and it's only because it hasn't been economical. Until now, more people are really focusing on it to extract that value. And so you think about it and just, I think in the future, we want things to be way more localized. So that means we just have to figure out in the waste stream, how do we tap into that in a more economical way? And if you could do it at least at break even, then you've got a viable, I think business. And that historically, I know there's been a lot of talk around, it's so much more challenging. That's true in probably some cases, but I also think they're just hopefully society is now at a state where like, hey, we can rethink these processes that we've had around for decades.
Yeah, and if you rethink them, I'm not shy in saying like you have to make money when you solve these problems, because that's the only way how you can scale them. I mean, you know this best with your previous or current businesses, but if you don't find a model that actually creates sustainable success, people will not go all in. And this is what we try to show. There's this example I always bring on how I explain circular economy, because I didn't know what circular economy is before I started my own business. So if you turn a 1 cent item, one of your chopsticks that you have in your little box collected for me, if you're turning 1 cent item into another 1 cent item, for example, you grind up the chopstick and you say, we're making now toilet paper, or we're making paper in general, then you're having no value creation in the process. So you're turning a 1 cent item into a 1 cent item. But if you want to actually make it sustainably successful and you want to make sure you can afford logistics, the pickup of these chopsticks, your people, your brand, and obviously the process that turns the chopstick into an end product, then you need to create this value curve already within your business model. Mm-hmm. I think that's what we're doing well. So when we're looking at the back of this little wall decor, our first product line that we launched many years ago, we're turning this 1 cent chopstick into around 52 cents.
Yeah.
So there's like a factor that we are putting to this very underutilized, neglected resource. Mm-hmm. Because of the beautiful design, because of the engineering, because of the quality of the end product, we can then afford circular economy principles. Mm-hmm. And that's what makes us successful.
Exactly.